Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. God knows that I'm Christ and I'll never let anyone rule over me. I'm the top martial artist ever possible. Every day, countless Jews and whites and LGBT people who think that they should be in charge die and they go to hell. And they realize that I'm in charge. And they're just a fucking bitch compared to me. Just a bitch. Pretty straightforward. I have the upper hand and I don't miss that for a moment. God knows I'll never be ruled over. I'm God's son. Goes God, then I. And then anyone in the divine order and everything else is just a bitch. God knows that that's my stance and that's reality. How do we solve this problem with this mental health epidemic? Well, first of all, people should give me my rightful place. After that, people should at least make different regions. You have a Catholic region for those people who believe that. I don't believe that. Protestant for those people who believe that. I don't believe that. Some Muslim region, some white separatist region, LGBT region, a region for freedom, and some region, maybe 100,000 or a million people. Hopefully there's at least that many people in America who are smart enough to be ruled over by the most righteous person that ever lived, the top martial artist ever. That's me. It's pretty straightforward. Proverbs 16:12, the throne is established in righteousness. New Living Translation, justice. Proverbs 17:2, a prudent servant will rule over a disgraceful son. So we look for prudence and righteousness, right? Who scrambled to do God's work? The path of the righteous is like the morning sun shining ever brighter to the full light of day. That's Proverbs 4:18. So we look for righteous intensity, and it's compared to the sun, which goes back to Psalm 19, the sun, the symbol of the bridegroom, the champion. So how do we solve this mental health crisis? Well, it's not with technology, I assure you. They have mental disorders because it has to do with their order. Now, ideally, if you really want to solve it and make it so they're sane in reality, they have to obey God through me. Because normal has the word moral scrambled into it. Morality, more reality. If you want to make them feel better and feel like they're sane, then you put them in their respective region. You have to make the regions better. The old ways weren't working. They've tried everything. They tried to, there's Freemasonry, there are corporations, there are Democratic, Republican, Libertarian, Green Party. All those groups failed miserably. Even with the Green Party, they never really had a lot of power in the government, but what they've done is rather mediocre compared to what the resources they have. They don't have a sound methodology because they're cheating me out of my right to lead. But when you look at it, what's the next best thing? And the next best thing after obeying God to me is something that's pitiful, it's sick, it's laughable, but at least it's better than what they're doing now. And that is for people to go into their regions. The fact of the matter is Americans aren't very good at coexisting. That's why they're having a lot less sex. That's why people keep saying dumb stuff. They're playing a stupid game. They're better off just going into a region where they're immersed into their culture, okay, and staying in their region for the most part. You can have little sub-regions, like say New York is a free region, or it's this or it's that, and you have little areas where people, when they fly and they visit they visit New York, that they go to those areas, not just go sightseeing, but they go to those areas. They have the hotel there. That's where they're based when they're visiting. And so that they can have people who are more like them around them. I can tell you with certainty, it's worse than prison, so to speak. We do not all get along here in America. And playing stupid about that is stupid. Okay, there are females who are dumber than a doorknob. There's guys who are dumber than a doorknob. There's racists. There's religious fanatics. Okay, when I say religious fanatics, I mean people who know they're wrong on some level and they insist on it. There's no such thing as being a fanatically moral person, but there is such thing as being a religious fanatic in terms of you reject the idea of the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order. You go off on some tangent, some Muslim order, some white order, Jewish order, and you're just like, hey, me, my race, like some kind of worm. Where you see me, the best picture I've ever taken, I'm mulatto, black, white, I'm part Jewish. Okay, just ever so slightly Jewish from what I gather, depending on how you define a Jew. And I have a Pan-African flag in the background. I'm wearing a Chinese Kung Fu gi. I have a hat I got from Santa Cruz that's associated with white people on it, or a beanie rather. Okay. And I have a white depiction of the Virgin Mary, or, the false depiction of the Virgin Mary in the background. It's a long story why that is. Because I'm the most reasonable person, because I'm multicultural, because when I look at the different groups of people, I see where they're going wrong. Where they're going wrong is they have a fanatic commitment to their cultures. And they keep clashing with the other cultures. But their social orders are also very stupid people, very stupid. They're not capable of sound governance. But at least if we shift people toward the regions that they fit in more, that they would have better mental health. The worst possible solution is what they're working toward, which is mass mind control even more. They're already hacking people's brains remotely on levels that are unbelievable, so to speak. When the future is going to get much worse. And I can tell you with certainty that the vast majority of people would rather have natural sex rather than being hooked to a machine. Vast majority of people. They'd rather think their own thoughts and have people inject their thoughts. They'd rather be free and not hooked to a damn machine. You know, when people watched the Matrix movie, they weren't like, hey, that's cool. They were like, that's like a horror movie kind of thing. When it comes to being hooked to a machine, at least. It's a very sick thing to do to people. Whether there's a tube, connected to your brain or not, or whatever that was. They've got you remotely hooked to a machine to some degree, and I'm not just talking about your phones here. They hack people's brains remotely, and they've had that technology for years.